Hi, I'm Mike Hoffman, Editor-in-Chief of Inc., and welcome to Your Next Move, produced by Inc. and Capital One Business. At Inc., we know that entrepreneurs are always looking for smart ways to set themselves and their companies apart. And today we're hearing from two founders, two innovators who've done just that. For Sheila, Lirio, Marcelo, and Luan Cox, innovation is job one. Sheila, Luan, welcome.
Thanks for having us, Mike.
Thank you, Mike.
Luan, tell us what FinMkt does.
We provide point-of-sale technology to banks, credit unions, non-bank lenders who want to enter point-of-sale financing, specifically in home improvement and healthcare.
So if you want to remodel your kitchen or your bathroom, this is a place to go, and you can get financing as well as the contractor.
Exactly. But our client, we are empowering your home improvement company to be able to provide you with the best rates and the best experience.
Terrific. And Sheila, tell us what Ohai.ai does.
Ohai.ai is actually an AI virtual personal assistant, and it's also the operating system for your family. So we solve problems with calendaring, conflicts, email messaging, all of that. The mission of the company is to allow us to take care of our families, to be able to sit down for meals, take care of their nutrition, and just free up our minds from this cognitive overload that we have in life.
And so what's a typical question that someone would ask your assistant?
Oh, send me a reminder when to take my medicine. There's a conflict between my husband and I with a 3 or 4 o'clock pickup. Could you make sure you assign it to Ron, my husband? So I often describe that. It does make people laugh that, hey, you can use O to actually delegate an assigned task and it gets done.
That's amazing. So Luan, I'm curious, your previous company was Quote.com, which was a sort of huge innovator in the fintech space. How do you think differently about setting up this company versus Quote.com in terms of thinking about innovation?
This is actually my fourth company. So Quote.com was back in Web 1.0. And back then, as Sheila knows, the internet, nobody even knew what the internet really was, right? So built 2 more companies in that same vein, aggregating lots of financial market data, bringing it to the masses so that they could be armed with the same information that Wall Street was. I believe that you should always leverage your past when you're starting a new company. Like, I don't think that really, going into the fashion industry when you only know finance, that's tough. In terms of innovation, then we need to figure out, what do we do that no one else is doing where our skills will be useful? And we realize no one with our backgrounds are in this new fintech world. And so I think that's what sets us apart too. And, I think for entrepreneurs that have some experience, which I know a lot of the audience does, I think, always be a learner. Always, always, always. Because we entered this new world, we knew nothing about it. And every day, even today, we're doing things that no one's ever done before, right? So and it's changing every day, especially in fintech, right? Every day, something is changing in the world. So we're just always trying to keep our ears open, learn, and then try to find the little spots where we can take our skill set and make a change for the better, for the consumer and for the businesses in our space.
There's an interesting theme with both of your stories, right? Which is that people think of innovation as like a new idea that, something that's never been done before. And of course it is. But in both cases, you were able to leverage, your experience, your expertise, your knowledge, and apply it to a kind of a problem that's been around forever, but in a new way. Can you sort of talk about how that works?
But the reality is that previous experience and insight that we have in identifying the problems is also not just knowing the problem, but it's also leadership in an area where you want to be innovating. And if we decided to step off and we didn't build off of our previous knowledge of experience either in finance or in the care industry, then it's hard to kind of innovate from that thing that we're trying to disrupt ourselves. So in some sense, disrupting ourselves from previous, right, requires letting go of the ego, being the learner, and then you've got to let that ego go and say, I'm ready for this next challenge, I'm open, but I can still stay really confident in my skills and my knowledge. Yeah. And so much of this is like this inner sense, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think be ready to be wrong, but have the confidence that you will get it right, as long as you're always listening and willing to let go of your ego. When we first started the company, we had this big idea that we started this data provider for crowdfunded securities and the peer-to-peer lending space. And we had all these partnerships with great companies to take our data, but nobody would pay us. We can, and so that is a hobby, right? That's not a business. If you've got partnerships with the best companies out there, but they're not going to actually give you any money.
Yeah.
It's hard to make your number if nobody's paying you.
Exactly. So I went to my co-founder and I said, how do we take this, evolve it, and figure out a place, a space where we can actually get paid? And we did that. And, today have biggest banks and credit unions paying us big SaaS fees, and we're profitable.
The reality is, an entrepreneur or any entrepreneur that's trying to innovate, you got to have bold ideas and put it out there, but be authentic enough to realize that you got to go test and evolve if that first thesis isn't right. And that's really the key to innovation, is getting the data, getting the feedback, but you got to put it out there, be bold enough, test it, and then evolve.
It's interesting, right? The thesis can be right, as in the idea can be a good one,
yes,
but who's going to pay you,
yes,
right? And so where's the check? Who's writing the check?
That's
and
right.
I'd love to hear who was sort of the first big customer you were able to land, and how were you able to do that?
We approached Instacart shortly after we launched. And Instacart was building AI features, and they had integrated a media company, a diet company, and us. And those two were actually really massive companies. And for us, we were like this little itty bitty startup. But they felt that we were willing to share our data. We were very innovative. We have the entire household when they sign up for Ohai.ai. So instead of mom just going to the grocery store by herself, you can have the whole family during the week put products, and then we click 2 buttons and order the groceries and get it delivered by Instacart. It was such a novel concept. And our average order values were much higher than any other platform that they'd seen, that they said, oh my God, that's amazing. So now we have other companies coming saying, we want to go do this. So partnerships and first clients are really important, but the experience mattered a lot.
What you're describing is interesting, because like a part of innovation, right, is figuring out what your minimum viable product, your MVP is.
Yes.
And at the same time, in both cases, your companies grew because of partnerships, and partners, big corporate partners, often want things to be perfect. And so how do you balance the sort of push and pull between launching fast and launching in a way that a partner will be comfortable with?
Our mantra has always been, in our past lives, customization. So how we approach things was, let's build a platform that is easily customizable. I call it sort of scalable customization. Build in a platform that's durable from its foundation, right? Strong from its foundation, and then allow for customizations. And what customizations really are is client-led product development, right? Instead of like trying to guess what everybody wants, just know that what's the common denominator, and that's kind of what an MVP is anyway. But if you're in technology, if you build it so that it's highly customizable, then your clients will get you to, MVP, right?
That's so smart. Yeah.
And so for us, it's very similar. We had to build a modular system on the back end because the innovation in LLMs were going so quickly. Between OpenAI and Anthropic and Llama and Gemini. And if you're a little itty bitty startup and these big new LLMs come out and they're faster than the previous one, and you've built it against just one, how do you innovate fast? So we decided that our architecture had to be modular to begin with. So understanding how to evolve very quickly and build fast, and how you architect the system. So what's interesting for us, we don't really customize for the enterprise client because we're a direct-to-consumer product. But in some sense, we do customize for the consumer, right? Because they're giving us all this feedback in conversational AI. So how do you make your product team move quickly, gather all that data? The other thing is, look, we've launched now a year and a half, right? Reporting and data, honestly, whether you're in a big company or a small company, build the systems that get you to the data fast. Innovate quickly, have your team train. I did this at Care.com too. Learn from the data quickly, evolve quickly, visit it on a regular basis, don't get attached to your ideas, and really run a business with objective data. So you're constantly iterating, and building fast. That's super important.
Luan, what about you?
We're always focused on revenue. We're always focused on building stuff that the clients actually want, because we can't afford to be wrong. So we'll mock things up. We'll go pre-sell something before it's built, knowing it's how long it's going to take us to build, how much it's going to cost. And when we have feedback that says, yeah, we'll take that, right? Then we're like, okay, we're done. That's where we're going, because the client told us, not models or data, right? I mean, it's about balancing all that.
We test concepts. Anybody in the team come up with a concept, right? They pitch us that idea, mock it up, similar, right? And then we test it against the milestones. We say, hey, is this achievable on the metric that we're trying to achieve? And assuming that the concept gets the blessing, even though we're a tiny little company of only 30 people, and it gets the blessing of the management team, we then do a proof of concept within the technology. And then we actually go to our power users and start to test it. That's what we're doing. The iOS app has been approved now for over a year with Ohai. The reason we haven't launched it is that we have power users being it up. And then we add more users and get statistical significance. By the time we get out, we have a sense of how the product is working, exactly what you're doing, and saying, hey, we're getting consumer feedback. We're ready to go.
It's interesting to me that your new idea is meant to disrupt your previous ideas. Can you talk about why that might be sort of a more fun and enjoyable path as an entrepreneur than trying to keep a current company like up to date?
Care.com in 2014, I think I was like the 7th woman who ever taken a company public, which is really sad in the statistics. But I just recall being like, we couldn't innovate fast enough as a public company. Like we were stuck there, right? And where
were you stuck? What was the thing that was stuck?
We went out January 2014, December that year, the previous month before, iOS took off and our web experience was solid. We did all the testing, they were converting, the funnels were great. Suddenly they all wanted the phone and we didn't have a phone app. And I'm looking around like, oh my God, we just went public. We better go build this fast. And so you're hampered by that. So building the infrastructure and flexibility, I cannot emphasize that more, whether you're in an existing company or whether we're disrupting ourselves and moving to others, but the freedom to be able to do that and not be beholden to the legacy systems is probably the best thing.
It's about being sort of a builder versus a grower. I'm a builder, so it's just a natural thing to always be innovating, always be 2 or 3 steps ahead, always. Because if you're in an industry where you don't need to be 2 or 3 steps ahead, get out. Or if you're in a space because there's no competition, it's not a thing, right? So, it's just about that. It's a mindset, I think, and it's fun. I know for me personally, I want to create stuff so I don't have to work in corporate America because it's more fun.
My calling was building. My calling was innovating. I could have chosen different paths. And so people are always saying, why are you building a new startup again? It's so hard. And I keep saying to people, I don't consider it hard because I love what I do. I'm innovating and solving problems for people.
I'm curious, is it more difficult to sell through a truly innovative idea to funders, venture capitalists, folks who fund companies, or to end users, customers, consumers? And how is that sort of articulation different?
Ooh, that's a big question. I'm going to say it's easier to sell to customers than it is to investors, especially, being females and minorities. Less than 3% of venture capital goes to women still to this day. And so it's always been easier for us to find partners and potential clients to help us and so that we can then go into, a pitch meeting with that backing because we need it. Quite frankly.
For us, when we were starting to build an AI, it was not only the technology was ready, the consumers were ready, the investors were ready, the entire stakeholder market, as I'm looking at it, was like, this is here and now. We got to go for it.
So you're both immigrant entrepreneurs. And do you think that there's something about being an immigrant entrepreneur that is an asset as you think about bringing innovation to market?
100%. Because we are an innovation, just our existence in this country, and as it is an innovation in of itself. I mean, I was born in 1970 in Vietnam. Happy to be here, but also my culture is also drives me to succeed, not want to, but to succeed. So yeah, failure is not an option for real.
And I was raised in the Philippines, right next door to Vietnam, in a culture where the Philippines is the narrowest gender gap. And so we have so many female leaders. I didn't grow up worrying about being a female leader. And my dad was the nurturer and my mom was the go-getter. And so for me, I didn't feel anything held me back in terms of stereotypes. And I grew up with 4 brothers. And so I'm comfortable around being a leader and leading men. And that was huge. And then I went to an international school. So I have this sense of being a global citizen, being open to all open, diverse ideas, impacting my leadership. But really, it's also removing all the stereotypes and having to worry about that I could be bold just being me.
That's amazing. So now for each of your companies, what's sort of your next move? Luan, let's start with you.
Well, we are in the process of disrupting ourselves. We're going to release a product very soon that will make our product obsolete.
We're launching an avatar, so you can actually have a personality behind O. First, it's going to be really cool, but then you can also personalize it down the road. There's a lot of different things because we want for it to come to life and really help you and really take care of you. And then we're getting ready for our A round, which is really an interesting time for a startup.
Sheila, Luan, thank you so much for being here on Your Next Move.
Thank you, Mike.
Pleasure.
And we'll be back with you guys shortly. But first, let's welcome back to Your Next Move, Karen Bonner, VP of Brand and Acquisitions Marketing at Capital One Business. Thanks for joining us today, Karen.
Thanks for having me, Mike.
Now, as you know, businesses need to be creative to come up with new ideas and to solve challenges and to compete. But once a company is established, how can it find new ways to foster creativity and avoid getting stuck in a rut?
Yes, cultivating a culture of creativity always starts with leadership. Think about setting an example in your own work and routines. You can be a model of adaptability and innovation for your team. Regularly review and question processes and your own ways of working. Just because things have always been done a certain way doesn't mean it's the best way. Embed that creativity and innovation into your business mission, vision, and values as well. That way, as a leader, it ensures you're going to be speaking about that to your team often.
And are there approaches to help employees think more creatively across all levels, not just, specific teams or specific departments?
Yes, absolutely. Encouraging openness to new ideas and knowledge sharing is that key to sparking innovation anywhere in your organization. So think about support structures for cross-collaboration across departments. Exposing employees to other parts of the company can help them understand the full picture and really spark those ideas. Also create dedicated avenues for employees to pitch and develop new ideas. It's just so important to recognize that creativity is critically important, and it's a skill to nurture in all employees, whether they're working in a traditionally creative function or not. Implementing practices that support that learning and inspiration ongoing can help foster creativity in all parts of your organization.
What about tools? What kinds of tools can you use to help boost creativity in your organization?
You can boost workplace creativity through a number of different tools. So there are idea management platforms out there designed to promote brainstorming and allow teams to capture those ideas as they go. You can even offer user-friendly graphic design or prototyping tools that allow any employee, regardless of their design skill, to bring their ideas to life visually.
And how can small and mid-sized businesses sustain a culture of creativity over the long term?
Again, leaders play just as big a role in maintaining a creative culture as they do in establishing it in the first place. Think about giving those employees credit and really recognizing them when their creative ideas pay off. Even more importantly, don't punish or criticize in any way when their ideas fail. You have to treat failure as a learning experience rather than an opportunity for criticism. Employees then will be less afraid to take risks, and that leads to more creative innovation and growth.
Thanks so much, Karen, for being with us today and sharing these insights about creating a culture of creativity.
Thanks, Mike. It was my pleasure.
Next up, our own Sarah Lynch is going to explain why embracing change can benefit your company in the long run.
Thanks, Mike. It's late 2022, and Google is sitting comfortably at the top of the tech world, dominating search so thoroughly that people use Googling as a verb. But then OpenAI releases ChatGPT, an AI tool that's fast, easy to use, and could do everything from help you draft emails to planning trips. It can even roleplay Dungeons and Dragons. Oh, and users start turning to ChatGPT for questions they normally ask Google. Suddenly, Google begins to realize its business is under threat. When you're at the top, it's easy to focus on what's working, but innovation doesn't wait. How do you stay ahead when the next big disruption is always just around the corner? It's a story as old as time. Cars replaced horses, electricity overtook gas lamps, and smartphones replaced, well, nearly everything. Entire industries must adapt or risk extinction. It's tempting to double down on what is working and what's making money, but that mindset can leave you vulnerable to a constantly changing world, a problem author Clayton Christensen famously dubbed the innovator's dilemma. Despite pioneering digital photography, Kodak hesitated to fully embrace it, worried companies would cannibalize its film business. Competitors took advantage of the shift, leaving Kodak scrambling and ultimately leading to its decline. In contrast, Amazon prioritized long-term growth over short-term profits. It might be hard to remember, but Amazon started off just selling books. But unlike Kodak, Amazon kept its eye on the future, investing heavily in infrastructure and new business lines like Amazon Web Services and Prime. It was a gamble, but it paid off, making Amazon not just an online retailer, but a tech giant. So, how can you make sure you don't get disrupted? Lesson number 1, pay attention to trends and anticipate market shifts, like software giant Adobe. As boxed software became obsolete, it didn't wait to be left behind. The company transitioned to a subscription-based model with Creative Cloud, ensuring its relevance in a digital-first world. The takeaway? Successful companies don't just react to change, they anticipate it. Keep a pulse on emerging trends and shifting consumer needs so you can act before the market forces your hand. Lesson number 2, keep an eye on changing customer needs. Innovation isn't always about groundbreaking ideas. Sometimes it's about recognizing a need. Take Uber. What began as a ride-sharing service quickly expanded into food delivery with Uber Eats. The company capitalized on consumer demand. It saw a need in the market and diversified its offerings to meet that need. Lesson number 3, don't rest on success. When Netflix launched as a DVD rental by mail service, it beat out Blockbuster with its first industry disruption. But it was willing to cannibalize its own successful model to grow. Even though internet speeds were barely ready, Netflix bet on the future. The company launched its streaming service in 2007 and set the stage for the company's massive transformation. By 2010, Netflix began shifting its core focus entirely to streaming and began to create its own content as well. Companies like Amazon, HBO, and NBC with Peacock scrambled to keep up. They all followed Netflix's blueprint, pushing streaming into the future and leaving traditional cable in the past. So remember, always look for a customer need that's not being filled. Keep searching for better ways to solve customer problems or improve their experience. And of course, stay curious, experiment, and don't be afraid to adapt to meet changing needs. Innovation isn't optional, it's survival. While none of us have a crystal ball, one thing is clear. Disruption is no longer a question of if, but when. So if you're wondering whether AI is a threat, just ask Google. Their answer is an AI-generated overview. Some things speak for themselves. Back to you, Mike.
Thanks, Sarah. Now, this season, we want to give our audience access to founders. So for our guests, these are some viewer questions. So the hottest conversation in innovation today is around embracing AI and how companies can do that. So we asked Inc. readers and viewers for their top AI questions, and I have those for you now. So our first audience question is, what's one AI tool that every business owner or entrepreneur should have in their toolbox right now? Luan, let's start with you.
Well, I mean, obviously, other than Ohai.
Right. Yeah. Accepting your own companies, right?
That's great.
ChatGPT, obviously, you need to know what to do. But we're big fans of a little company called Scale.ai. Allows you to create prospecting emails using your own voice. It goes out and scrapes LinkedIn and other places to find information about your prospect, and then create some highly customized prospecting emails. So, those types of tools, especially for a company like us in the B2B space, are important.
Prospecting so important.
Prospecting, yes.
Yeah.
Well, of course. Okay, so there's no way I can not plug Ohai.ai because majority of people don't have personal assistants. You've got the C-suite, but VP and below don't. And so it actually gets everything done for you so that you can really have productivity at work. So, of course. So then Perplexity is something I love because it actually shows you the different sources and it's incredible web search. So I will typically take a New York Times article or I can take an Inc. article and I can go put it into Perplexity and say, give me all the different kinds of perspectives on this specific topic. It saves me time and it summarizes it, but also allows me as a CEO to be in the know and having different perspectives.
That's great. I think similar to prospecting, using AI tools for collections is also great. Like to write a very polite collections letter so you don't have to feel bad as you send that out. But like, hey, you're beyond 30 days. How about we pay? So AI is everywhere. You talked about how Ohai.ai was created to have a human touch. How can you ensure that as you're using AI, you're maintaining that human touch to your business?
Yeah, so part of the reason we really named it OHAI is human assistance. And again, humanity within AI is we have humans in the loop. We actually have teams. So 97% of the tasks completed by the AI, but we want to deliver an exceptional user experience. So we have humans in the background, and they also data label the algorithm that we're building. So that helps because AI is actually training from humans. And so you don't ever want to remove what we call humans in the loop to deliver an exceptional user experience for families.
So our third reader question is, how can you use AI to increase your productivity in a smart way? Luan?
We view AI as a way to make humans more efficient, right? So we use AI in customer support, for example. So things that are repetitive, things that don't need a whole lot of deep thinking, but are going to make our humans be 10 times more productive is what we're looking at, is what we do. So that's around content creation. We use a lot of AI in content creation, blog posts, that kind of thing, of course. But in our customer support, we do real-time customer support. We handle a lot of complicated things. A human needs to be there. We're dealing with financial information, private information of people. So yeah, that's where we're kind of focused on, is how do we get rid of the repetitive things, make ourselves better at the harder things.
And what we focus on is really freeing up the mind on what we call the daily dump. This kind of sounds really funny, but you collect the daily dump, get rid of this cognitive overload, and allow us to actually delegate these everyday things, mundane things that you don't need to be worrying about, because you want to really be more of a human, to create and have the time, spend time with your family, have the connections, be able to draw, do those different things by solving the cognitive overload.
Great. And our last question from Your Next Move viewers, how do you use data to make decisions that help your business grow?
So we're using data and credit underwriting models, which is obviously a big trend these days, which obviously helps with approval rates, helps look at a human being's credit in a different way than just, A, B, C, D. And that's obviously very heavily data driven. And then also analytics, right? We're using AI to help us get through some of the easier analytical parts so that we can get to the higher, more complex problems where we'll need humans to come and look at the data and make some decisions.
So the data, I look at it in two ways. Certainly efficiency and operations. Look at, as I mentioned, we do these ping reports. You can go look at the data as a CEO, and I don't have to bother people. I can also look at visualization dashboards and reports like that, make sure that it's streamlined. But I want to make sure we don't forget, because it's the question you just asked previously. We interview our customers, real humans, every day, day in, day out. Everybody in product, you collect the data, you talk to users regularly, and that's how we really use the data, not only with the system, but in actuality, because we're building these products for real human beings.
Great. Thanks for joining us for this great conversation. And we hope today's conversation arms you with the tools you need to bring an innovation mindset to your business. Tune in next time for more industry leaders, breakthrough businesses, and the strategies you need to make your next move.